Hello everybody, what is going on? It's Jimmy here back with another video. Today, my friends, we're going to be talking Xbox Series X, VS, PlayStation 5, and PlayStation 5 Digital Edition because some new information came out and it really got me thinking. The PlayStation 5 does usually play multiplats better than the Xbox Series X. And a lot of people are very concerned about this because a lot of people went ahead and literally bought the Xbox just because the fact that they thought that it would play multiplats better than the PlayStation 5. So now people are wondering, why is the Xbox Series X behind it in a few different titles? And it makes not really a lot of sense. And The Verge actually was the one who reported on this, and that's where I got this information from. Tom Warren was the man who wrote the article. He put early game comparisons show the PS5 outperforming the Xbox Series X. Now, this isn't really lining up with what Microsoft told us. Microsoft has always been talking about, oh my god, this new Xbox is just such a powerful machine, and I'm not doubting that at all. I'm not hating here. I'm not doubting the fact that the Xbox Series X is extremely powerful, and it is more powerful than the PlayStation 5 for sure. But the AMD technology that Xbox was waiting on AMD to give them let a lot of developers actually get their hands on a PS5 dev kit before they could get their hands on a Series X dev kit, and because of that, I think they had more time to ultimately optimize the console to work better. So the thing is that I think that it makes a lot of sense. Now, the Xbox Series X is around 12 teraflops of GPU horsepower, and the PS5 is around 10.28 teraflops of GPU horsepower, which a lot of people expected to be, make a difference. Like, people thought you were going to see a difference, that, it was going to run ray tracing at a higher frame per second. In a lot of games, the Xbox Series X takes a slight edge in 4K, but in more titles than not, the PlayStation 5 actually ends up looking the better console when it comes to graphical fidelity, and people are just ultimately confused by that. Well, here's what happened, okay? Ultimately, I think it comes down to both these consoles are optimized differently for games, and ultimately, you're just going to see a slight difference no matter which way you take. For example, the Xbox Series X shows an advantage in the ray tracing performance, but the PlayStation 5 does better at 120 frames per second when we're talking about Call of Duty Cold War. And honestly, I think it makes a lot of sense. I do, because of the fact that both these consoles are built differently, even though they're using similar but not the same AMD architecture. They both have their graphical components from the same corporation. They were definitely not given the exact same graphical components, or else they would both have 12 teraflops or more of powers. I have a quote for you here that's going to sum up basically why this is happening. Okay, so here's what it says from The Verge. These performance gaps, weird bugs, and differences between the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 versions of games look like issues related to the games rather than the platform problem for the Xbox. If Microsoft delivered dev kits and tools far later than Sony, it could take creators more time to optimize further for Xbox. It may also explain why we didn't see a lot of Xbox Series X gameplay in the months ahead of launch, but Sony was happy to regularly deliver us PlayStation 5 gameplay. Expect to see a lot of patches either way. Codemasters is fixing up Dirt 5, and I understand that Ubisoft is working on an Assassin's Creed Valhalla patch for the Xbox Series X to improve gameplay. Microsoft is also working with developers to resolve issues that have acknowledged the comparison videos in statement to The Verge. We are aware of the platform issues in a handful of optimized titles on Xbox Series X and S, and are actively working with our partners to identify and resolve the issues to ensure optimal experience, says the Microsoft spokesman in a statement to The Verge. As we begin the new console generation, our partners are just now scratching the surface of what next-gen consoles can do, and minor bug fixes are expected as they learn how to take full advantage of our new platform. We are eager to continue working with developers to further explore the capability of the Xbox Series X and S in the future. Now, Microsoft has not explained why it waited for full RDNA 2 support from AMD for the Xbox Series X. Okay, so here's what I think happened here. And basically, off this evidence, this is like exactly what happened. PlayStation sent out the dev kits for developers to work with months before Microsoft did. And when they did that, ultimately, they gave Sony the edge because they had a lot more time to optimize these multiplats for these consoles for the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 digital than they did for the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S to a lesser extent, because obviously it's not really competing directly with the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 digital edition. And by doing that, basically they just gave it more time. Sony's console ended up ultimately getting more optimized for these initial first-party games, but patches are going to come out to give the Xbox Series X the crown when it comes to what console is performing the absolute best. But it's going to be really interesting to see, you know, is this a coincidence? Is this because they got the consoles early, or is the PlayStation 5 a little easier to develop on and they can squeeze more power out of it? I don't know. You don't know. We will find out soon, but I thought this was a really interesting subject, and I wanted to bring a video out on it because the fact that I think a lot of people are not considering the fact that the PlayStation 5 may actually be the multiplat king. We don't know yet, or it might be the Xbox Series X. Who knows? I know that the PlayStation 5 could definitely cool itself better than the Xbox Series X can, which would definitely come in handy when trying to pump out more power, because just look at the size difference between the two consoles. That should give you a clear indication of which console can actually, you know, give more power without having to worry about overheating and stuff like that. So anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a comment, like, maybe even subscribe. Tell me down below what's going on with this. Do you think that this is interesting? Do you believe that the PlayStation 5 could be like better optimized and because of that have more power? For example, I know that Final Cut Pro works really well on low-spec MacBooks as compared to Premiere Pro on low-spec MacBooks because it is better optimized. They both have the same amount of power, but it will just run a lot better because it is better optimized for the Mac than Premiere Pro is. So that's just an example of better optimization and how it can ultimately affect how well something runs on a platform. Anyways, sorry for the long outro. Jimmie out here. Thank you guys so much for your support.